in your trim.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? You're listening to the Business Unscripted podcast, the show where we basically take all the script, we throw it away, and we're getting down to that real talk of what it actually means to take and what it does to grow your business. I'm host Dave Worden here with Tribe Business Solutions. I'm here with Duarne Bernhagen, our business partner. Duarne, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Dave. Yourself?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. You ready to dive into some fun conversation points? I think that we're going to get into pre-show. We had some good ideas and things like that, but who knows where the show is going to go? Because I think every week we talk pre-show about maybe a couple topics that we're going to get into, and then it goes completely off on a tangent because that's like me and you conversations about, right?
Hey, I think that's most people's conversations, right? We find yourself just letting it take it where it needs to go.
That is true. So I'm going to start off and say if there's some technical difficulties on my side, I apologize. I'm traveling. My son has a baseball tournament in Indiana, so I'm sitting now in a hotel room recording this. And if you've ever traveled, you know how crappy and spotty hotel internet can be. But we're here, so grab your cup of Joe. Let's sit back and let's jump into the show. All right, Warren. I want to start off, the show today, just reminding everybody down below after the end of the recording. Duarne and I, we have revamped the Triumph Mastermind. We are here where we're going to be giving you daily Q&A sessions to drop in, ask questions, get that support that maybe if you're doing it on your own, or maybe you have a small team of people and you need some extra levels of expertise. Duarne and I will be there. We're bringing in other experts as well for you. We have, our community available to you. We're also going to have WhatsApp available, so that any time of the day, you can come in and you can ask a question, drop your thoughts, ask for support, etc. But Duarne, I'm excited to kind of do this with you. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Hopefully we get to help a bunch of people while we're at it. And I'm excited just to share, a bunch of these awesome new things that we find out on a regular basis and things that we take for granted that we know. And just assume others will.
Exactly. And so if you have any questions about the Triumph Mastermind, drop them down below. We'll have a link for more information. And then if you have any questions on show topics, like maybe you've gone back and you watched a couple shows and you're like, hey, man, can you explain a little bit more on this topic about cash flow, or you talk about this topic and anything else that we talked about in previous episodes, drop them down below. We will be more than happy to either answer the questions live, or we'll bring them up in a future episode and we'll let you know. We'll reach out to you and let you know, hey, we answered your question, because we appreciate you guys listening, dropping by, and learning and just looking to grow. And I think that's the biggest kind of sign of people who are going to be successful, right? It's the people that are seeking that support, that are seeking that guidance long term. Those are the people that are going to win in the long term.
I agree. I think those who are seeking wisdom, experience from others. It's about, like we've talked about before, right? It's about finding your network of people that can support, lift, and help you raise you up to where you want to be.
Exactly. Which I think brings us into at least the main topic that we want to talk about. I think it's something that, I do a lot of, right? I'm an ambassador of the networking platform Alignable, a local ambassador for Cleveland, Ohio. Duarne, that's how you and I met. We met through Alignable and networking. But I also think that networking is a thing that a lot of people do incorrectly. And they get a lot of bad advice around networking.
Right? On this topic, lots of opinions out there on this topic.
For sure. And so listen, if you're listening to us, this is our experience, right? This is our opinion on the topic. You have to take it and kind of go with it with what you will. But I do think networking is a necessary evil, but there's some you can put some rules and put some limitations on it for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So the first thing that I would say is make sure you have a purpose, right? When you're networking, don't just go out and connect with every single person that potentially matches. I think you have to have a purpose when you're networking, whether you're seeking new clients, whether you're seeking new partners. Make sure you have that purpose in mind. And the second thing is going to be make sure you give before you expect to receive. Um, and I think a lot of times when you meet new people in networking, asking the question like, "What are you going through right now?" Like, Duarne, if you and I were meeting, and we were meeting maybe for the first time, maybe even the second time, I would ask the question of, hey, what's some things that are going on with your business that you might want some extra support with? Might not even be something that I do, but just give me 2 or 3 things. And what I want to do is I want to think through my network, and I want to possibly connect you with somebody who may be able to help you solve that, because I want to be a benefit to you. And if you can do that for 2 or 3 or 4 people, now you're going to start seeing those residuals come back to you. But you have to know that you're going to have to give. Just like Gary Vee says in his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, you got to flip that to networking is give, and then you'll be able to take. And that's okay.
In saying that, Dave, I mean, from me too, it's about understanding who you're trying to connect people with. And that comes from listening. Active listening is the most important thing when meeting with anybody, especially networking, in my opinion. The amount of times I've met with people and you can tell they're not listening to what you are talking about, they're not interested in what you've got to say, and tend to just start pitching or start trying to connect you with people who do exactly what you do or very similar to what you do. And you're like, well, that's like going into a car dealership to buy a new car and, then getting recommended by the car dealer to go talk to another car dealership who sells the same cars. It's just like they wouldn't do it. They try and sell you what they've got.
Yep.
They're not your customer. You got to think about it. If you're going to give advice to people, I love the way you ask that question, because one of those questions, what it does is it starts that conversation of what is it you're needing? What is it you're going through? You can start connecting people with the right people, because the last thing you want to do is be meeting with 20, 30 people in a week and going, I'm a master at this networking thing. I'm killing this thing. Only to find out that there's no wins on the other side, that you're not actually getting any business. You're not growing. Because what's the whole purpose of networking? It's about building a network to be introduced to more people or sell your own products. Now, yes, networking, we're all told don't be selling your products, but you sell yourself. You by educating people and making them aware of what you offer and what you do, and
You're building that trust.
You're building that trust, that rapport, and you do that. And it's like, I've got a guy who, 18 years ago, I was in a car with him, and I'd gone to Brisbane. We'd gone for a drive to Brisbane. I'd gone up there on a bus, and I was up there for a recruiting meeting that I had with the Air Force back in the day. And that was great. I finished up there, did all my testing, passed everything I needed to, caught up with him. He was one of my vendor suppliers. And we're driving back, and he dropped into a tire shop. I'm like, oh, you need some tires? He's like, no. But someone in the office asked me earlier about recommendations on tires. So I'm dropping in here because I've seen this place. It's nearby the office. I'm going to talk to them, get a bit of a quote, come back and give her the details and help her out. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Then I asked him more about this, and I found out this is something he did on a common, regular basis without prompting. And it wasn't just for employees and colleagues that he did it for. He did it for customers, and he helped them out with all sorts of different matters. And he just connected people, and he was a connector. Right. So it didn't matter where he worked. It didn't matter what job he had. He would just connect people. And in my opinion, that's the key for networking. It's about connecting people. I remember meeting with Clay Hicks over there at the H7 network. And the first time I met with him, he was telling me about how he'd met with thousands of people over the last 12 years. And I was really impressed with that. And he always finishes on a question, he was telling me, and I may be getting this wrong but I'll paraphrase. But it's basically, who do you want to connect with? Who do you want to meet? Is there somebody or a type of person you want to connect with? I'll make it happen. I will find that type of person and I'll put you in touch with someone like that. And then he goes on to tell me that every single meeting that they offer, that is the takeaway for every single member. And that's a double-edged sword in some networking groups. Because in a lot of networking groups, like your BNI groups that, we've all been to one or heard of the stories where everyone feels like they have to give a lead or a connection, but there's no point if it's not the right connection.
Right. They don't think it through. They're just doing it to meet their quota, right? They're not necessarily putting any thought into it.
Exactly. And I think, you've got to do, it's like you said, do things with meaning. If you're going to give someone a connection, make sure it's something that is meaningful. Something that when you talk to them next year, hey, how'd you go with that person I connected you with? And if you're going to connect someone, like if you're connecting two people who do marketing, well, that's great. If they've got different customer bases and do different types of marketing, maybe they can do a synergy and work together. But if they're doing a very similar thing and you've met with them and you know that they're kind of similar, then putting them together may not be of any benefit to either of them. Basically, they're just going to be going, oh, yeah, that was really nice. Thanks for your time. There's an hour I'll never get back, but it's good to have met you.
Right.
And
that brings me to like,
but
I was going to say to like the calendar management side of networking.
We were talking about this earlier in the week. I thought that was a really clever idea when we were talking about that.
So there's 2 parts to it, and I'll say like this is my part 3 and 4 to networking. And the first one is like really qualifying the people that you're having conversations with, and you can do that either, as you were just saying, like limiting the people that you invite to a conversation, or if maybe you have a link on your profile or something like that within your calendar settings, whether it's Calendly, whether you have a calendar built in Go High Level, whatever it is, you can build specific questions and help you qualify the people that you're meeting with.
Yeah.
And you can, change that depending on the meetings link that people are using. And we can dive into that and get more into that later. But the main goal of your qualification is let's say it's for a prospect or it's for, a potential partner, asking just a simple question, something like, are you willing to invest if you find the solution? Maybe not even saying like, are you willing to invest with our service, but just asking it in general, like if the problem you identified in the question above, so asking like, what's a problem you're going through that's relevant to your service, right? So for example, let's say for our fractional finance teams, we ask a question of, tell us a struggle or an obstacle or something that you've been, wishing that you could have from your accounting or your bookkeeping strategies that you don't currently have. And then the question below it is, if you're able to find a solution, right, to that problem that you just mentioned, are you willing to invest a minimum of X, right? Because and the minimum is going to be, what is your basic intro pricing? So that's $500 a month. Say if you find the solution that works for you for that problem, are you willing to invest a minimum of $500 a month? And you can have a yes or no. And if they answer yes, perfect. It takes them to the scheduling link. If they answer no, the beauty about a lot of these Calendly or Go High Levels is that you can put logic into answers. And then you take that no answer and you say, look, right now our schedules are super swamped. We are only looking to meet with people right now that are ready to invest and ready to move forward. We hope you understand. However, here's some reference information or reference resources that we want to provide you that could potentially still help you. Please come back, right, to, and schedule when you're ready, to move forward. And that helps you qualify. So that way, the people that are on your calendar are people that are ready to move forward with a solution. It might not be yours, but they are looking to find a solution. And then the fourth part is the other side is people may.
Before we go into that fourth part, Dave, I just wanted to just go back to what you just talked about there a little bit, if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead.
With the calendar. Another thing you can do when you do that is you can actually introduce like a downsell or an upsell. So if people aren't ready to meet or they don't have that expectation of what you want, like let's say, for example, you're a kitchen remodeler, and they are not, if you put one of the questions in there, as when are you ready to actually do this remodeling? And if it's like I'm in the planning stages, maybe in a year from now, still raising the capital, still waiting for finance, whatever that might look like, then maybe the option is to send them additional info. Say, look, are you open to receiving some information to help with this, or, you know, to put you in touch with some of our partners in the finance sector? So you can actually then have an automation email that sends them out, puts them on a nurture sequence, presents information to them to get them ready for what's coming next.
Absolutely.
You know, even like with your solution there, like with the fractional CFO stuff, you could have, well, look, you know, we're not taking meetings right now, but we have a mastermind that you might be value to you to come and join, or we do a weekly group call, which you're welcome to come and check out if you want. So you can find ways to help them, but do it in a way where you don't have to meet them one-on-one if they're not ready or they're not suitable. But I just think that it's a really clever model to do that. And I think you don't have to be linear with what you're doing. It's not a case of
because you could send them. No, you're not. You could say like, hey, here's a recorded webinar I just did. Like, check this out.
Yeah.
You know, and the way, think of those evergreen options that you can have for yourself that are out there. Like, send them to your YouTube channel if you have a lot of YouTube videos out there. Send them to other things to prove your expertise, and then once they themselves see it, maybe for example, like for ourselves, right? We have our cash flow template. You know, maybe, you know, we send them the cash flow template and we say, hey, fill this out, like, you know, walk through it. Then when you're ready, I'll have a chance to meet with you. And again, it's more opportunities there to show your expertise, get them to feel the pain or the struggle of the obstacle that they're going through, right? And then you can jump in and help solve it or point them in the right direction. And that's what I mean by quality. I think, and listen, I'm speaking of this part from myself. Like you had mentioned earlier about just having 40 meetings in a week and just filling, because when I jumped on Alignable, initially I was looking for like a LinkedIn alternative, right? And what I liked about Alignable when I started April, it was about 2 years ago now, is that it was limited connections, which meant that the people that are looking to connect with you at least had a reason, right? The connection, personal, whatever it was that they wanted to connect for a reason, because each month you're limited in the people that you can reach out to. So it wasn't like LinkedIn at the time, which LinkedIn still is the same, where people just, with InMail and all this stuff can just, they spam you. Yeah. So when I found Alignable, they had just released the Smart Connects, right? Which was, it's basically speed dating for networking. So you go into a meeting for an hour, and Duarne, you and I know these, but if you're listening, you go into a meeting for an hour, virtual meeting just like this. And, every 7 or 8 minutes, they put you with somebody else. You talk, you introduce each other, and then you get paired with somebody else based on your profile settings. And if your profile settings match, boom, you're connected. Now, when these initially came out, they did like this whole week where it was like from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. There was a Smart Connect every hour. And at that point in my business, I was just like, I'm going to hit all of these, right? So I was doing like 5-6 of these a day. And then I was just booking people afterwards. And after about a month and a half of having all these meetings, I came to the realization, like you said, right, Duarne, I just had all these meetings. And what did I do? Like, what happened? Like nothing, right? Because they weren't qualified. I don't know how many MLM people I talked with that when we met one-on-one, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, maybe there's a way to help. And then they're just, no offense to MLM people, but the majority of them were broke MLM people, right? Because 99.9% of them don't make, a living off of that. It's just like a side
they're
hustle.
Locked into a specific model they have to follow.
They have to follow it.
Anyway.
Right. So it was a really broken there. And then, even some of the other people that I met were just like, I didn't qualify them. Let's just break it down to that, to go with the point. And, it was a waste of, probably a month and a half of my life that I never could get back, like you said. So.
And it's strange, right? I mean, because at the time you feel really good. You look at your calendar and you go, wow, I've got so many meetings on the books. Mm-hmm. And you're so busy doing the meetings and turning up and being present and doing what you need to do. And then you do an evaluation at some point and you go, well, how many proposals did I send out? How many deals did I do?
Right.
How much work have I not done because I've been on so many meetings? Solopreneur, I mean, can you really afford to be doing 20 meetings a week at 45 minutes a meeting, only to find out that, you don't get any business from it? I mean, the
Not at
answer is
all.
probably no. I mean, it's not. I mean, so I think the reality is, and like the other thing that I've come across is that whole bouncing back and forth with people trying to get that meeting to match your time zones or match the availability. And then you got to ask yourself, like, I'm using all this time trying to do the meeting. What's the outcome? What's the beneficial outcome for this? And yes, I don't mind meeting new people. I don't mind that. But when I'm hustling, trying to make some money, I need to make sure that I'm using my efforts in an effective way to make sure that I'm getting the results that I need to get to earn the money and keep the doors open.
Well, and that's why I don't go back and forth anymore with anybody. Like, if anybody says, well, tell me your availability, I'm like, hey, like, the easiest way, use this link. It's directly linked to my calendar. I find a time that fits both of our sides, book it. Like, I don't go back and forth with anybody anymore. But which also leads me to number 4 that you were talking about, right? And this is, I have begun to take a look at my, like, so let's say the end of the day today, I'm going to be looking at my Monday calendar. And if I have any new meetings that have not been accepted, I send an email that just says, hey, I know we have this meeting booked. I noticed you haven't accepted it yet. If I don't hear back from you by, I give them 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever it is that you want to give them, I'm going to go ahead and cancel the meeting. Here's a link that you can reschedule it. Yeah. Because again, you don't want, for me, and again, this just works for me, but I know a lot of people are just like me, where if I'm doing something like, and I'm head down and I'm ready to go, and then I have to stop to go to a meeting, right? You have to change your mindset, right? You have to change what you're focusing on. And then if you have to sit there in that meeting for 5 to 10 minutes, it's a waste. You can still do some things, but you're not as productive because you're ready for them to jump in at any time. And then when you have to cancel it, right? So you're literally wasting your whole productivity time by like a half hour, 40 minutes just from one person canceling, because you got to stop about five minutes early, then you got to waste 10 minutes in there, and then you got to spend another 15 minutes to get back into the productivity mode, and then who knows when your next meeting is. So I always and I've begun to preemptively cancel meetings that aren't accepted by people that are supposed to be coming, because more often than not, those people that don't accept, one, maybe they haven't even seen the email, because I have noticed sometimes too, notifications for calendars go into spam junks, so maybe they didn't see it, and this preemptively says, oh yeah, I didn't see it come through, let me check, and they find it, and boom, now I'm good, perfect. I risked, I eliminated that risk of somebody not having it on their calendar because they didn't see the invite because it was in their junk or spam.
Yeah.
So just making that a process for yourself. I don't know, Duarne, how you handle your calendar that way, but I've begun to do it, and I just find that it just saves me some frustrations.
I think it's a good plan. I mean, I take advantage of the pre-warnings that come out and the notifications from the calendar system. I tell you one thing I absolutely hate, though. If you're using a calendar booking system and you've set up a 24-hour warning that there is a meeting for a virtual meeting, you are wasting your time. The only purpose that a 24-hour warning is good for, in my opinion, is if you've got a on-site booking or if you've got a in-person meeting, then you might need 24 hours to prepare for it. For me, I don't see a value in 24 hours. A 2-hour warning, 3-hour warning, that's fine.
Right.
An hour warning, that's fine. But not, I just don't see a value in saying, hey, look, you've got a meeting tomorrow, because that tends to, I don't know, for me, it's like,
in business, right? I mean, in business, how often, do things change? Things change regularly.
Yeah.
So, and here's the other one that I hate when it comes to that. I don't need a 3-day notification. I don't need a 24-hour notification. I don't need a 7-hour notification. I don't need a 30-minute notification. Just give me one reminder.
Yeah.
And if most of them are virtual, I can't tell you how many times I've got people now where I get 3 or 4 notifications of my upcoming meeting with them. It's like, I don't need that many reminders that I have a meeting with you. Like,
my calendar gives me by default a 10 or a 15-minute, depending on which calendar it is, 10 or a 15-minute pre-warning for a meeting. That's like, okay, cool. That's enough time for me to wrap up what I'm doing, get into the zone, ready for a meeting. Not enough time. A 30-minute or a 1-hour pre-warning, that's so disruptive for people, because that, like you said, breaks your train of concentration, gets you ready. Unless you're unprepared for this meeting.
Right. Well, and I get I get sending one notification, whether it's 2 or 3 hours ahead of time, because if they have it, like maybe they forgot to accept it, or maybe they forgot to put it on their calendar. Like, go
Absolutely.
good. If you want to set up one reminder, set it up as Duarne said, like 2 or 3 hours ahead of it. But that's it. Like,
Yeah.
and then maybe you could do a text message like right at the meeting time if you got their phone number that just says, "Hey, I'm in the room, looking forward to chatting with you." Like,
I do a
those are
3-minute
cool.
warning. I like that, but I do
Okay.
a 3-minute warning. I give people the benefit of 3 minutes. If I haven't heard from them after, if they're not in the meeting after 3 minutes, I'll jump on and I'll start drafting a short email within the calendar just to go, hey, just following up. I'm in the meeting room, just checking you're able to join today. Thanks. Send it. And that typically is enough that it gives them the alert, especially in the current day and age where everyone's holding a cell phone, right? So you get that warning up on your cell phone. Oh, yeah, I've got that meeting. Oops, better jump in.
Well, and a lot of we've all been there, right? Where we like
Absolutely.
you and I have done it to each other, where it's
Oh,
like, okay, I know I got a meeting with Duarne in 5 minutes. I start doing something, and before I know it, it's 10 minutes later. And I'm like, oh crap, I got to jump in with Duarne. So it happens. That's why I give people about 5 minutes. If you're not in the meeting in 5 minutes, I leave, and I go do something else, and then I send a message. Hey, sorry we missed each other. During our session, I understand things get busy. Here's a link to reschedule, and I'm not wasting my time anymore in my calendar.
I'm not bitter about it. I don't get annoyed about it. I mean, I know a lot of people get frustrated by that. For me, I think you just got to move on. But I mean, the other thing is when you get when you get that 2 minutes before a meeting and someone sends a notification to cancel a meeting, my feeling on that is that's pretty rude unless there's a really good reason for it. It shows a lack of respect in a lot of cases. If you're meeting with people that you regularly meet with and you've got a good rapport, you can get away with that. But when it's new people and you are networking, I mean, that's something to be really cautious of because people will judge you. And you know how many times I've heard stories where people have done that to people and they go, well, you know what? I'm blocking them. I don't want to meet with them anymore. So anytime they try to
even after one time,
they go cancel. I'm not going to make that. They just won't accept your meeting anymore because they see that as a lack of respect for their time. And I get that, but I think you've got to be of the networking. Do it with meaning, do it with reason, do it with gusto, and treat it as if it's a customer proposal that you're going to be pitching and proposing. That's the sort of level of respect you should be treating it with when you make those bookings, when you set the times, and being there on time to do it. So you can give it the most. And if you can only do 3 of those in a week or 1 of those a week because of your schedule at that level, then just do that. Because there's no point meeting with 20, 30 people. Alignable master, those group, what do they call them? The those group calls where they jump around and they switch you between people and you
Smart
get
Connects?
7 minutes with somebody. Quick Connects, that's the one.
Smart Connects.
Smart Connects. Those things can be great if you really just want to practice getting your conversation right. But if your intention is just to meet a bunch of random people, then that's a great option. And you can connect afterwards and get some good meetings if you're not sure where to be meeting. Otherwise, spend your time planning who you want to meet with, create your ideal profile of somebody who would be a great person to meet with, have the reasons why you want to meet with them, and then bring that up in the conversation as you go out to meet with them. If you're selling something that's a real product or say kitchen remodeling, and you're there trying to meet with people in another state where you don't service, then ask yourself, is that a valuable use of my time? Or am I just wasting my time meeting with people out of state for something that's never going to happen? And yes, you might get that, but they might know somebody in state. They might know somebody. Yes, that is true. But if you've got the ability to book another meeting with somebody who is in your local area that can take on your service, then that may be a better option for you to meet with if your time is limited. And as solopreneurs, most of us do have limited time. So we're not saying don't meet with people, don't network. What we're saying is just be selective. Choose who you want to network with and choose.
So it kind of brings me to the four kind of points that we brought, right? One was having a purpose, which you were just mentioning, right? So have a purpose when you go into your networking. 2, always be prepared to give first. So give before you're expected to take, right? So don't just go into one networking meeting, don't get anything out of it, just say networking doesn't work. Like, you have to be focused with it. 3 would be to learn how to qualify properly, right? Whether it's with questions on your calendar, whether it's with, who you're asking to meet with, but qualify the people first. And then 4, begin to, pay attention to your calendar and begin to cancel those meetings with the people that haven't accepted it, to begin to clear up your calendar and make sure you are still the most productive version of yourself every single day that you can be, because ultimately, that's what it matters, right? We're all given the same 24 hours in a day, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's all, what are you doing to be the most productive? And you don't want to waste your time with tire kickers and time wasters that book calendars and then never show up.
On that note too, just imagine if you don't go through and do what we're suggesting, imagine how many missed opportunities and missed meetings might be there if you're sending out people who are using those meeting invites and go, well, look, I'm available at time, but you've got someone else booked. But then that person never turned up, or that person, hadn't accepted the meeting, but it had blocked it off in your calendar because you had. So just be aware of that you could be missing out on opportunities by not being on top of your calendar and making sure you verify that everyone's making a booking is actually going to turn up.
100%. So, anything else on networking? I mean, obviously, I truly believe that we as business owners, you are as strong as the people around you. I'm listening to the audiobook now, for 3 Feet from Gold, right? From the Napoleon Hill, Foundation. And, in there, one of the pieces of advice, and I can't remember who the exact, kind of successful individual said this, right? But it's, you are the sum of the 5 closest people to you in your life, right? In your network. So, think of who are the people that you have around you. And if they're not the people that where you want to go trajectory wise, it's probably limiting you. Like Duarne, you and I, we're probably the closest, right? And we push each other. Like, we give each other feedback. We give each other, kind of honest thoughts and push each other to do better. And I feel like, we need to, I'm doing always a reflection of kind of those 5 people in terms of like my business people, right? Obviously you're going to have personal life people, but your business people, like, who are those people that are going to push you forward, and make you the better version of yourself and give you that support that you need. And I think that also goes with networking. Like, how are you're not going to find those people just from walking down the street or walking into Walmart. Like, you're going to find those people from having business conversations, from learning more about people, from opening yourself up and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Absolutely. And look, those uncomfortable situations, that leads me into networking groups, which will be my final thing I wanted to talk about.
Perfect.
If you're going to go into networking groups, test them out. Turn up a couple of times. Turn up and then just see who turns up there too. If you're turning up at a networking group and it's the same 10 people that are cycling through that networking group and none of them share connections, that none of them beyond an initial conversation lead to any extra business for you, and you've been there for a couple of months and you're getting pressured to join up and become a member and pay money to be a part of that group, or even if it's just a free group, ask yourself, what am I getting from the group? Should I try another group and see if that's got something that I could get, might be of benefit to me, where I could offer some connections to them, or they can give me some connections, or vice versa. And try not to be the person who turns up at every single networking group, because guess what? You start to look really obvious when you're the person turning up at every single networking group, especially when it's talked about that, you're the same person in there, and you start seeing it and you start hearing the same stories every single time when you turn up. Everybody in those networking groups, again, who are the regulars, are going to know that. And for the 2 or 3 or 4 new people in there, they may appreciate it until the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time they hear it. So just be aware that, it's just as important to choose the right networking group that you want to be turning up to, if that's your choice. These quick connects are great on Alignable because you can meet such a huge variety of different people at these quick connects, depending on which ones you go to. But then there is some other more clicky quick connects groups that have a very specific core group that are always there. And that might be great for you to get some, if you're looking for information or assistance or recommendations, if they've got lots of connections. But at the end of the day, it may not be the right place for you to be, doing your fishing, because networking is all about fishing, right? It's about throwing that fishing rod out there and trying to, get some good bait there and see if you can find some good connections that can help you in your business. And like you said, sometimes you've got to throw away some good bait before you catch the right fish. But you need to make sure that you're out there trying it, but just don't get caught in that trap of turning up to every single networking meeting, turning up every single week because, that's when they meet, and then find yourself meeting and greeting and talking to the same group of people and not getting any benefit or growth out of that as well.
Well, and also like too, like when you think of networking groups, at least just for myself too, is, really think of what's the investment, not only like monetary, like you think BNI, or even like you mentioned Clay, and I know Clay too for H7, like they have a, investment costs, etc. But like not only thinking of that investment cost, but think of the time investment cost.
Absolutely.
Like for example, like, and I'm not knocking BNI, but I'm not a fan of BNI only because like they require you every hour, right? They require you to do all these different things, and they're an hour and a half every single week. And a lot of people don't have a lot of time to do an hour and a half. But not only that, but now like you have to give, as we mentioned earlier in the conversation, you have to give referrals. So you're basically scraping the bottom of the barrel to just give people referrals within the group. And it takes time out of your day, right? You got to be thinking of, who do I need to refer to, who haven't I referred to, and all these different things, right? So not only is it a monetary monetary investment, but it's also a time investment that you have to consider to any group. And do you have it? And is it going to be beneficial? So like, for example, if you're selling let's say you make a $30 commission every time you sell something, and you got to invest in a $900 a year, networking group. Well, that's 30 people. Do you feel like you're going to get 30 sales a year out of that group in order to make it worth it, right? To just break even. If not, then it's not worth your time. Now, if you have $1,000 a month service and it's $900 a year, now you just need like half a person, right, to make it worth it. You're going to pay yourself back in the first month that you get somebody. So now you can come in and make a benefit, right? Now you can come in, maybe you go 6 months, and then in the 7th month you get that new client. Well, now you're going to make $6,000, right, off of that client for 6 months, and it only costs you $900 for the year. So you got to start, as a business owner, if you are not thinking ROI on every decision that you make, you're basically hindering your progress. You're hindering yourself. You're hindering your success.
Absolutely. And if you look at some people who are struggling in business, I've met a bunch of them, and they're connected to multiple networking groups, and they're connected to multiple applications. Like, they're paid members on LinkedIn. They're paid members on Alignable. They're a part of 3-4 different networking groups. First of all, can you really be using that many platforms and be attending that many networking groups and getting the serious benefits and rewards you need from it? If you've got a whole team working for you that are delivering the results, and your job is just to go out and meet and greet people and bring them in the door, maybe you do. But if you're a solopreneur, then maybe you don't. And so evaluate and work out, is that meeting, is it about networking? Is it about getting the sale? Is that why you're there? Or is it about just meeting some new people? Or is it about building some awareness? Or are you there to learn new skills? I mean, there's always going to be different reasons for different groups. And, a mastermind, for example, is a very different form of networking to a weekly general networking meeting where people go and give their intro, talk about themselves, get that information they, from each other at the end of it, maybe have a breakout and have a conversation. So choose wisely where you spend your time, whether it's on one-on-one meetings, whether it's network meetings, whether it's in masterminds. Just remember, you've got 24 hours. Everybody else has got 24 hours. So just choose how you use that wisely.
And I think, like you said too, like paying attention to what you're going to get out of the meeting as well. Are you just going to hear the same, 30-second pitches? Are you going to, or actually you're going to learn something? Like, are they bringing some educational, like fun content to you that you can learn something in? I think that's all important for sure.
Absolutely, because I think at the end of the day, if you were to go and watch a television show, or whether it's on Netflix or traditional television or YouTube or whatever, think about what you would watch. Would you watch the same show that had the same intros or the same advertising advertised in the beginning, or would you skip through that and then just get to the parts you want to watch? You can't do that in networking. You have to sit through those parts. So
Right.
if a lot of it is those parts that you don't really want to be sitting through and you want to skip through because you've heard it all before, then maybe you're in the wrong networking group. But if you're there and you're here and you're enjoying the whole show and you walk away feeling like got something from that was great, then maybe that's the right networking group for you. But don't shy away from them. Check them out and try a few different ones. There is a pile out there. You honestly just spend an hour on Alignable, drop a message on there and say, hey, looking for some networking groups to join.
Right.
What do you recommend? And I guarantee you'll get bombarded with people inviting you to meetings.
Well, I think here too, like you referenced it, like if you're a solopreneur, you're doing it all yourself, and don't try to be a master of all the platforms right away. I think you pick one platform to go all in on, and that's all you need. There's plenty of fish in that sea for you to be successful at that level. So whether it is Alignable or whether it is LinkedIn, only pick one, right? Where your ideal clients are, like where are they going to be? And then just go all in on that platform. Yes, you're going to hear people talking about like you should be on 4 or 5, but those are as you mentioned, those are the people that have teams. They have people that help them out. So if you don't have a team or a VA or a marketing manager to do these things for you, and it's just you, one platform is all you need. There's plenty of people on one platform for you to find your first 2 to 3 clients that will give you the money to reinvest in your business to people that can then broaden your platform reach. So many people that I've talked to try to do it all. They're trying to do the Facebook, the LinkedIn, they're trying to do Alignable all at the same time. And they're struggling because they don't know what to put there. They can't follow up with conversations. There's too many places. Exactly.
If you're overwhelming yourself with trying to, you're never going to enjoy it. You're never going to get out there as much. And I think you're right. I think you have to limit it. You have to make that decision that if you are going to network, work out how many hours you prepared to network, then work out the ROI on that, and then work out if I'm doing one-on-one meetings. Like for me, I used to spend about 2 hours every Sunday on Alignable, and I would be able to line up around about 10 to 15 meetings on Alignable for the next week coming up, just by chatting to people on Alignable and getting that ready. So by Monday, which was, because I'm working on this end of the world, that was Sunday was everyone's Saturday there. So their Sundays, they would come in and they would schedule out in my calendar and they fill my calendar up. So by Monday, I'd know all the meetings I needed to be in. But at the end of the day, having a full calendar, like we talked about, doesn't mean getting
full calendar doesn't mean success at all.
No,
full calendar does not mean success. So,
and the amount of times when I see people going, "Oh, sorry, I've got to go. I've got another meeting," and then they jump into the next meeting, and then you talk to them next, a few weeks later, and they're like, "How was that? How was the meeting?" I was just catching up with some, getting to know them. I'm just getting to understand what their business was about and what they do. And it's like, okay, cool. All right, I get it. So, we can only do that so many times.
Exactly. And I think so if you made it this far and you're listening about networking, right? We've talked a lot of great things about networking. Feel free to drop a comment down below. If you have comments, questions, feedback, drop them down below. We'll get to them. But I think, Duarne, the other thing that I wanted to talk about today was AI. And I think AI is something that is been pretty cool. I don't know, I think it's this artificial intelligence thing. I think everybody's been talking about,
like robots and shit.
Yeah, like artificial brains and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Terminator. I watch that.
One of the cool things that I think a lot of people, and even for myself, I'm taking advantage of now, and I just put a video out about this, is how you can use your ChatGPT to schedule some things for you and create recurring tasks. And I think that a lot of people didn't know that this was even a thing. That you could, for example, one way that I do it is I love inspirational quotes. I love motivational quotes. And I like to start my day. So I've now tasked ChatGPT to send me a motivational quote with an action step and a mindset tip based on that quote every day. And it sends it to me every day at 7:45. But some of the other things you like, just the ideas we were kind of throwing around, kind of pre-show is endless. Like you could, let's say you want to, your coach has you check in at the end of the day. Some things that I would potentially do is you could have an end of day check-in, let's say 6 p.m., that it sends you a checklist for a check-in that says, hey, how many conversations did you have today? Did you feel like you gave it your full effort? Things that we've been talking about, previously in other episodes that, you don't want to be distracted. You want to make sure you're giving it your all. Like you have to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and really give yourself that honest opinion. Did you do it, or did you make excuses for yourself? And now ChatGPT can like really prompt that and just send it to you.
Well, I think the task thing is a very interesting thing. I mean, imagine having an assistant or a receptionist or a secretary, and you've got a daily task that you assign them. Clearly they're not going to be able to make coffee for you with AI, ChatGPT, and the like, but they can do other things. So they might be able to go and look at the latest news that's circulating and trending about a particular topic and supply you with news topics for the day that are mentioned more than 3 times on different publications, and then list the sources. You can have it so that it can go out and find trending topics for you once a week, so you can write yourself a newsletter.
What I think, and if you think about this, right, I think a lot of people are still caught up in the old intro to ChatGPT, where it was only limited to like September. It was like September of the year before. That's what it was trained up to. So things weren't current. Things weren't. If you're still thinking that, like, you are so far behind. Like, AI is moving so quick. Now it's searching the internet, right? It's finding things. It's being more relevant. And then when, as you mentioned, give me the sources. Now you're going to have the links to those articles. So I like you could say every day, hey, send me the trending topics in X industry, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's marketing, social media, newsletters, SEO. Send me the topics that are being discussed, and then you could take it, right, and do whatever you want with it, whether it's a LinkedIn article, etc. But you kind of hit it there. But I just want to, because I think a lot of people still think like, oh, well, it's going to be so outdated. And no, like ChatGPT is now current. Like it's searching the internet with its searches.
And it's not the other one. There's a lot of all the other platforms pretty much have the same functionality, whether it's being Claude, Gemini, even the paid version of Copilot through Microsoft. I mean, all these platforms have this capability, all at different levels, all with different ways of communicating. I think the thing that makes it really spectacular for people, but also daunting, is the simplicity of the interface of ChatGPT. Right. You've got a chat window. You just ask it shit and it gives you answers. The problem is that's not intuitive to tell you about, oh, did you know we just introduced this new feature? Oh, did you know that we just did this? Because what's going to happen is unless you're clicking around and investigating, getting emails from ChatGPT and getting told about new features, or following a podcast that tells you all about it and use cases, you're not going to know. Like I watched I think it was probably last week. I watched Microsoft's Build conference, and oh my gosh, they are doing so many amazing things around AI right now, which are mostly directed towards the corporate and security side of things. Right. And then I went and watched the Google Gemini launch release, and it's very consumer, it's very user orientated functionality. And then I went and watched the Claude, and I was just absolutely shocked at what Claude could do with everything AI except for video and imagery, which it doesn't care about. But when it comes to logic and creation and coding and all that sort of stuff, we go back a couple of weeks ago, Codex was just, given a huge update through ChatGPT, which for coders means that you can now do that task service that we were just talking about. They've incorporated that into that particular system. So what does that mean? That means we've now got a junior coder built into ChatGPT, where you can actually say, I want you to check my code for XYZ, and then report what the issues are with it. Then I want you to do a test case with this, make notes, adjust and fix as possible, and give it like a whole list of things you want to do when it comes to software work.
Well, I think if you think right, which
it's a use case, right?
It's definitely a use case. I don't think a lot of business owners, right, are going to be looking at coding. I think, at least for me, maybe you might.
Well, I get it. But my point was there is we've got ourselves all of these things moving so rapidly and so quickly across so many different models and brands and styles. It's just like we talked about before. Try to focus on one. If you want to just focus on ChatGPT, for example, and then go and find yourself an official ChatGPT channel, like it, subscribe, and just follow it, and just get those highlight videos and learn what the new features are. Because like when we first started talking about tasks, it was in the top menu. You had to go and get it. You had to start. It was another little prompt you had to bring up. It was a little bit awkward to get to. Now you just start writing in what your task is.
Yeah, you just say like, hey, I want you to, and I'll include a link to the video, down below this that I created like a quick how-to on how to do it. But like, just think like a lot of people that we have conversations with are like, I don't know what to post on social media, right? I don't know what to post. Now you could prompt it, right, to tell you every morning at 8 a.m., hey, this is what I do. This is, our business. This is the topics I want to talk about. I want a social media post around this or educational topic around this, industry that I can post. And here's my ideal clients that I can post on social media and send it to me every morning at 8 a.m. And then what you do is you take that post. You could take that post, right? You can either take it as is or add your educational, value to it, add some more information to it, and then schedule it out on your social media that day. Now you don't have to think about it anymore. And as you were saying, what do you want to do one step further to that?
Well, one step further to that, like you're going to be getting it to do the research for you and to find anything that's relevant in my area that might relate to my service that I can then talk about as a trending topic as a part of my new post for today. So that way you're actually taking it one step further. You're getting that personal connection. It's not dated, it's current. And this is where I think a lot of people are missing the point is you can actually ask it to do current research. If you're not, but what I recommend is if you're going to do that is just make sure you tell it to cite the sources so you can check it yourself. But I mean, these are things that you would normally have had to do one at a time manually, put it on your schedule, go through and do it. Now we just go and check it. It's a bit like going to your receptionist or your secretary or your administrator or your assistant or whoever you have on your team and saying, hey, I need you to do this and have it on my desk by this point. And then follow up that it's not there or did they send it? It's just it's right there in front of me. I've got it when I wanted it.
And I think we've mentioned this before, right? But people who are still against AI, they feel like you're not doing the work, right? They feel like, it's cheating in some case or form. But for me, and you're being more efficient with your time. So as you said before, you would have to go out and research a topic. How long would it take you to go out and find 5, 6, 7 different sources, whether it's in a library, whether it's online, people used to have to go to a library, then the internet came out. Was it cheating when you were able to use the Wikipedia versus going to a library? No. Right? Same thing here. Now you're able to do that 5, 6, 7 source, even 50 sources now in 30 seconds. Versus before you had to go out and spend hours upon hours to get the research, to get the topics, to get the different points. But the beauty of AI is that you're able to be more efficient with your time, be more relevant. And I think now as it's evolving, you can trust it a little bit more than before. Like before, it would just make up stuff to like fit whatever you were trying to get done. And you had to really verify it. Now you still have to verify, but it's easy. It's just say, hey, give me the link. And you can click on the link and see that it's a real article. See that it's a real topic that's being discussed, and okay, now it's analyzed that correctly, and then make sure it's in your voice. Like you don't want it to if you like talking conversationally and it's popping out things that are high level words that are only the doctorates can understand. Like if doctorate people aren't your ideal client profiles, make sure you're putting that in a way that's conversational. So
get the tone right. I literally just sent out a email advising my team that we're having a mandatory training next week where we're going to be talking about how to get a natural sounding message back from ChatGPT with the right tone. Because I've noted that too many people are sending emails internally which have the wrong tone, that come across as arrogant, or they come across as too professional or too salesy. And it's not them. I know it's not them and how they communicate, but they're trying. And we're talking about people who English is a second or third language. So it is a very useful tool for getting those messages across. But just that tone and that personal touch to your communication, I think that's where people don't realize that it's a lot easier to do that now than ever before. And you're right, this industry is moving so damn quick, it's not funny. Like, we've got 5 platforms that I talked about just before. There's more than that. They're constantly coming out with new models. They're constantly coming out with different styles and options. Dictation was just introduced, recently, that actually works fairly well in ChatGPT. I was previously using a third-party dictation tool. Now I use the dictation tool within. And for the 80% of the time that it works, it's amazing. For the 20% of the time that I sit there talking for a couple of minutes and then nothing happens and I have to reload the page and do it again, it pisses me off. But you know what?
But I think, like we said before, same with platforms, is you don't have to like have all of them. Like, test out a few, which one do you feel like are best. Like, if you want something that's really simple, easy to use, you could basically pick it up from now. Like, ChatGPT is going to be your best one. I think the other ones you takes a little bit like of getting used to and understanding in order to really make the best out of it. But I think ChatGPT is like the overall source, right? It's easy to use. It has everything. It has image. The only thing it doesn't have video yet, right? But it has everything else, and you can use some other things depending on what you're using it for. But I would make the suggestion of just finding one that really works and just use the crap out of it.
I totally agree. And I think if you are looking for that alternative, my suggestion would be go and try Gemini. If you're looking for the alternative, it does have video now. It does have some really fun features. It's got a lot more third-party accessibility and connectivity now available to it as well. Personally, I'm still using ChatGPT for the majority of the time, but these other models are just as good and getting better. But you're right. Figure out which one you do. Become an expert in what you do. And how many of us are actually going out creating multiple videos in a day? How many of us are going to be needing to do? Just work out whatever your tasks are and then find the best fit for you. And if there's somebody on your team who does do a lot of the video stuff, then maybe suggest that they use Gemini. And that's the one they use, and you use ChatGPT. Share an account if you have to. There's ways around this. But I think the revolution of where we are right now, it's pretty phenomenal. You're right. We went from libraries, we went into online research. In between there, we had, Encarta and encyclopedias on disk and files that we'd buy and upload and install. So we've taken this progression. We're now at that point, I think, where you can take data and look at data in different ways. And that's where AI is really, really powerful and shines above everything else that we've seen so far, where you can take 2 pieces of information that seem completely irrelevant to each other and then ask it to do an analysis of these 2 pieces of data and come up with some, ways that they work together and help come up with solutions.
It's all about efficiency. It's all about productivity. I don't think AI for a lot of situations is going to replace people, right? Mm-hmm. But it's going to help you be more productive. It's going to help streamline your activities. Where I think it's going to help business owners is it's going to help you save, instead of now having 3 full-time people doing a job because they have to go out and do all this research and do all this stuff, you're now able to have 1 full-time person that's really productive, really efficient. And you're saving in the salaries and benefits of those 2 extra full-time people that you previously might have needed. That's where I feel like the savings are going to come, right? Positions and all that stuff isn't going to be eliminated, right? It's just going to make people be able to afford more, right?
It's interesting. That's a really interesting point you make there, because Microsoft have come out and they're pushing that their AI development is based on agents. It's based on having expert agents to do different things for you. So imagine if you're a retail shop with an online store, and the online store requires normally somebody to sit there and run the store, and that means they can't really do anything else. They're distracted. But you could have an AI answering the inquiries coming through that's an expert on everything in your store, that's connected to your POS system, so knows if you've got stock. And that person who is normally going to be the one who is managing that can focus on finding ways to bring more customers to that store for you, getting more people on there to interact with the website. So I think you're right. I think it's about taking the fear away and focusing on, is it really the fear we're worried about of being replaced, or is it just the fear of being able to, learn new skills and learn the tools? This has happened through history so many times. If you look at transport has evolved. So, in a very quick period of time of about, 80 to 100 years, it went from horse and buggy to jets and planes. We went from...
Well, you just think of media, right? Media, right?
Oh.
Media went from only TV to only radio, right? To start. Well, if you want to go even further back, went to, horseback riders, right? Delivering the news, right?
Yeah.
to radio, to TV, to online, to DVDs, all these things, like, right? And now you have everything streaming on your TV. So even that's evolved, and since we've been growing up. You know what I mean?
Look at your kids, man. Ask your kids when the last time. Have you ever told your kids about when you used to watch free-to-air television and you had to sit there during the ads? I was having this conversation today with a good friend of mine, and I said, these kids today will never know what it was like that we would sit there holding it in before we had to run to the bathroom, waiting for the ad to come. So we know, okay, we've got about 3 minutes. We can go to the bathroom, do what we need to, come back. And then on the next ad, we'll run out and get a drink and refill that. And then on the next ad, we'll go and grab some snacks. And we'd use those ads to do things. Kids these days just pause, get up, go and do what they want. It's so convenient now. And you don't realize that we just adapt. Back then, we would adapt and use the ads as yes, they're an inconvenience. We didn't really like them. We'd start recording television onto a VCR, and then we'd fast forward through them. And then we got to DVRs where we could just skip through them. Now we just left to listen to 30 seconds of them in, YouTube and the like. Okay, skip. They got their ad money in. Now we can move to the next one. Watch our content as per, or we pay a subscription fee so we don't have to see them anymore. We will learn to adapt and get where we want to be. Technology, yes, it can be used for good things, bad things, but at the end of the day, I think it's a really clever thing for the entrepreneur, especially the solo entrepreneur. We now have tools that allow us to compete with big guys, with big companies, with big teams. And imagine having a team that has the same tools as a big team and has the same playing field to be able to implement changes quickly. Whereas these big teams, they can't implement these changes as quickly as what a small team can still. So you still got that advantage of being a small player and being able to take action quickly and using these really amazing tools that we've got at our disposal. So it's an exciting time we're in. Yeah, sure, I understand the bit of fear behind it, but yeah, I think it's a very exciting time. There's always something new happening, and yes, it can be extremely overwhelming. I know that, but Dave, you know that as well. But I think it's just a case of just stick to one thing that you want to learn and do well. And just once you're really an expert on that, just move to the next one, learn the next thing.
Well, I think you just have to find yourself being open to it. If you're an AI person or you're not an AI person yet, like, you just have to realize it's not going away. Like, you have to embrace it, right? You have to, like, all right, how can I use this in my benefit? And I did want to point out one thing. Like, the one thing you said before is, like, people just go to ChatGPT and they just ask it a question, and that's how they're using it. If that's how you're using it, you're using it completely wrong. And we don't have time to go into, like, how to use it better. Like, of course,
join the mastermind. We'll teach you how to use it.
Right. Exactly. We'll have the link down below. Join the mastermind. We'll help you all this stuff. We'll be giving you guys prompts. We'll be giving you guys sort of like tasks to create that are going to help you. And I think ultimately when it comes to, like, anything is just educate yourself on it, right? Become and just think, like, it's still new. right? AI is literally, what, 2 years old right now? Not even, or I think it's going to be 2 years old in November.
I think it's just gone over 2 years now. When it first
was it 23? Did it come out? No, it came out in 23, right? It came out in November.
Different technologies came out earlier than that,
but ChatGPT came out in November of 23, right?
That was when it officially, they had beta testing, they were testing.
Right, they were doing all that, yeah.
Copy before that. But yeah, for real, it's a couple of years old. The fact is, it's grown so exponentially so quickly. That's why people just can't keep up with it. It has forced the growth of the processing chip industry. It has forced so much growth in so many different areas.
Because integrated in Apple phones now, Apple is connected to ChatGPT. In such a short period of time, it has grown exponentially. So nobody is an expert yet. There's no experts. There's great users of it, and ultimately, expert becomes, I just know more than you in this particular topic right now. If you walk into a room and you're the person that knows things about ChatGPT that other people don't, you're the expert to them of ChatGPT because they don't know those things. So the expert in a room is the person who knows the most about a particular topic at that particular time. So
and that can
learn
change
more, educate yourself.
Exactly.
It can change day to day.
If you stop using it for a month and you close off learning any more about it for a month, well, guess what? You're no longer the smartest guy with AI in the room because it's moved past you. And it's very hard to be that smartest guy in the room about all the different AIs out there. So you're going to find all these experts. It's like finding a mechanic who's an expert on a Mercedes versus one that's an expert on Chevrolet. One's going to be really good at one, and he can do the other stuff, but he's not going to be as good. So I guess have some fun with it as well. Don't treat it as a task, and just try, like we were talking about, just be prepared that it is going to change. But you definitely give that task process out. Have a think. I challenge you all who are listening to actually have a think about what sort of task would be awesome to actually set up and do reminders on and get updates and get that sort of notification on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be daily. It could be weekly. It could be monthly. But see what sort of reoccurring, growing tasks that you could do and use that task process for. And we'd love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments, reach out to us. I'd love to hear what those sort of tasks are, because I know my mind was racing. Dave, your mind was racing. And I'm sure as I start to explain these to more people, they're going to have ideas. So it's just going to be monumental.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing here too is don't be afraid to trial and error. There's no limit. Obviously you could have 75 different tasks if you really wanted to, but trial and error. And then the ones that don't work, just go back and you can edit, you can delete them, but make sure that way you're not getting overwhelmed. But I would just say, just see what works. See what are those things that every day you want to have happen that you just find yourself either getting distracted or you're not able to do it consistently, and take those things and then start there and then go from there. And if you have questions on it, you want to kind of talk through it, reach out to us, send us some feedback. We're more than willing to kind of help you with it. So, but as always, I think we had another great conversation. We wrapped up. We talked about networking. We talked about some our opinion on networking, right? And the 4 areas, right? You want to have 4 sort of main things, at least from my aspect, is you want to have your purpose, right? You want to have make sure you're giving first is the second area, and then third way, qualify your people. Whether it's questionings, whether it's through limiting to who you're actually asking to have a conversation with, and then working your calendar. So paying attention to the next day and sending an email out to the people that haven't accepted yet. So that way you're not wasting your time and kind of having an impact on your productivity on the day. Which one for you? What's that one thing that your takeaway that you hope somebody takes away from today's episode?
Dave, I'd say, don't be afraid to say no to a meeting. If it's a meeting that's not going to work for you, if it's a meeting that you feel is not going to be suitable, if you're asking, feel free to ask questions like, can I get an agenda for the meeting? If someone's reached out to you for a meeting, feel free to ask them questions, because the conversation can start before the meeting. And a lot of people don't realize you can start that conversation before the meeting. The meeting is great to get a face-to-face. It's great to go through that process. But sometimes if you're not sure why the meeting's been set, ask for an agenda, ask for a reason. Find a polite way to do that, and don't be afraid of that. But value your own time, and don't just fill up your calendar for the sake of filling it up.
Right, for sure. So if you made it this far, we appreciate you. We love you guys. Hope you take one or two things out of today's episode that will help you impact your business journey, and you were able to learn from things that we're doing in our business journeys. But until the next one, we hope you have a great and fantastic day. Remember, down below, there's a couple links for you. One, learn more information about the Mastermind. We have some founding member specials going on right now, so make sure you take advantage of those. Also, there's going to be a link to Alignable if you're interested in kind of learning more about the Alignable platform or possibly signing up. There's a link there, and then I'm going to have a link to the ChatGPT task creation video out there. So if you're interested in taking that and how do you create new tasks in ChatGPT, take a look at that video. I will have it linked down below as well after we're done going live. So Duarne, thanks for joining me again, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful and amazing weekend. I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you in the next one.
Take care.